Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, darlings, to another episode of the Dangerously Divine podcast, where we explore all of the intricacies of feminine energy and tapping into your innate magnetism. If this is your first time here, hello, I'm your host, Rachel. I am a feminine energy and magnetism life coach and Reiki healer. I am thrilled to embark on this journey of self-discovery and female empowerment with you over the course of this episode. If you don't already, please go follow me over on Instagram at I am dangerously divine and screenshot wherever you're listening to this podcast. Send it to me so that I can share some love with you. And thank you personally for giving this show a listen. I'm always posting the juiciest stories, the most magnetic challenges, and free courses and little tips with you all to provide value to my audience. So I promise following me is worth it, and I will never, ever spam your feed. I want everyone to embark on the journey towards becoming a confident, empowered women, and I'm here to support you in all of your endeavors. So give me a shout out over on Instagram, let me know you're listening, and be sure to say hey. Before we get into the juiciness of today's episode, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a life update. My life has been a whirlwind recently. If you listened to the last episode, you know that I was in Boston for a little girls' weekend trip. Side note, we hated Boston. It was just not the place for me, for us, for my group of friends. I remember we went to this one restaurant that one of my friends' who lives in Boston was raving about. And she took us there and it was great. Good ambiance, good food. Kind of reminded me of like a Tao with like just over the top interior design. And then like later that day or maybe the next day, we had asked the concierge at our hotel, like, hey, do you know anything fun that we can do? Because we had wanted to like go out, hit some bars or clubs or something like after dinner that night. And there was nobody on the streets of Boston. So we were like, okay, let's just go home after dinner. We asked the concierge the next morning if there's anywhere to go, anything to see, like fun places. And he actually recommended that restaurant. I think it was called like Maribel or Marisol or something like that. And I was like, wow, so there's like legit nowhere in Boston to go out and meet people. And I am currently not drinking, but even in Chicago or in LA or in New York, like you can normally find people out on the weekends. This was like a Friday or a Saturday night. It was so dead. And there's also like a pretty lively non-alcoholic scene where, you know, people will go and drink non-alcoholic wine or non-alcoholic beer. They had none of that in Boston. And then we went the next day on a tour of the Boston Harbor, and we were staying at this beautiful hotel that was right on the water. The hotel was lovely, but literally, like, I kid you not, I fell asleep on this tour. We had to run all around Boston to get to the boat on time. That was failure to plan on our part. But we went on this boat tour expecting like the history of Boston. The Boston Tea Party happened there. It was one of the first 13 colonies. It was, I believe, Massachusetts was the first state to become a state. I don't know about that, but still, it has a lot of American history in it, I thought. And oh my God, this tour bored me to sleep. I fell asleep within 10 minutes and it was an hour-long tour. And my friend actually turned around to like look back at me. And she said she saw I was sleeping, but also I was not the only one sleeping. There were like other people on this tour who had fallen asleep. So anyway, Boston was a miss for us, but that's okay. We went, we still had a good time, you know, with each other. And it was fun to just have little bonding moments with my girlfriends. Then after Boston, I went to New York. Normally I go to New York once every year or so to visit family. So I took the Amtrak. Again, side note, Amtrak is fantastic. Amtrak is for the girlies. I got on the Amtrak from Boston and rode it all the way to Penn Station. And I was in the quiet car, so nobody was really on their phones. But it was like a car full of young girlies in their 20s, 30s. We all had our laptops out, working, eating snacks. Everyone had the whole row of seats to themselves. We all respected each other. Like, I felt totally fine leaving my Louis Vuitton bag on the seat with my laptop open while I went to the bathroom. Like, Amtrak was fantastic. That's a side note. That's a positive that I learned from my trip to Boston. So I was in New York. I saw some friends that lived there. I went into the city. I went to this amazing place called Break Bar, which is a bar. But afterwards, you are allowed to break your glasses. You drink your drink, they rinse them off for you, and then there's this wall that you can just throw the glasses against. And it was so cool, so cathartic to just like throw a glass, and all the cocktails had like fun names. So that was fantastic. And then I just spent Mother's Day with my mom. And it was also my dad's birthday. So all of that to say, there was no podcast episode last week, and I apologize for that. I did have all of my equipment and I planned on editing, but I think between the time difference and just spending time with my family and trying to stay caught up on work and other things, the podcast kind of fell to the side. And as I said in the first episode, if you didn't listen, I promised that I would always come on this podcast with the highest vibe, great energy. And I didn't want to give you something that felt like it was rushed. I didn't want to put something out that felt like I had to, or that it was work or a chore. So I am standing true to that promise. And I am back this week with a fantastic episode for you all. So anyway, that's my little life update. I am back in LA now, and I just have a renewed sense of self and of pleasure and of life. And I'm so excited to not only dive into this episode, but as soon as I got home, I pulled out my daily planner and I just started scribbling down all of these ideas that flooded into my mind while I was on the plane, while I was on Amtrak, while I was just at home in a beautiful, peaceful, resting state. I have so many good things in the works. One of which I will share, and this is the last little side note before we get into today's episode. I'm just really proud. I am writing a children's book. I'm so excited about this. This has been on my list to do for probably 10 years. And I actually wrote the book last year and planned on publishing it. But then I did not get around to it because I couldn't find an illustrator that I love. And it just seemed like it was not the right time. But I still had the book. And I'd revisit it every few months, make little edits here and there. And then it came to me that if I want to start publishing other books on Amazon, which side note, I maybe will do. I'm not going to put a time on it to launch a book, but my next book that I want to come out with is all about balancing the masculine and feminine energies. I looked, there's maybe 2 books about it, and it's not a very talked about topic because there is a lot of research involved. But I think that if it has a fun modern spin and can take into account all of the news and the media and what we're fed as women, and also a little bit of that history and that ancestral wisdom, I think it's going to be a hit. So I thought, okay, I want to this is next on my list. I want to start writing this book and expand on this idea of balancing your masculine and feminine energies. But then I thought about it and I was like, well, it would be great to have published my children's book that I said I was going to do a long time ago. So I went online, I posted a job posting on Upwork or Fiverr, one of those, I forget which one I used. And I had about 100 illustrators contact me. I spent hours going through them, messaging them. And I found one illustrator that I'm so happy with. And I revised the book. I sent it over to her. She started making illustrations. And it's finally coming to fruition. So I'm not going to give you too many details on what the book is just yet. You'll have to stay tuned. But I'm excited. I think it's sort of sparked my love of communicating with children. I just love little kids. I love the way their brain works. I love that they're so open and honest and true to themselves. And I think that this book is what I needed to read as a child. And I think kind of historically, I see a trend going on. And I want to say this without actually saying it to give away too much of the book. But I see a trend going on of more compassionate little children being just burned by the world and being told to grow up, being told to shut up. And I just know that if I had a book like this, my life probably would have been a lot different. And I want to help impact as many lives as I can with this podcast to all of you beautiful grown-up women. But also, let's start young and let's be empowered to make smart decisions and stay true to ourselves when we're young as well. So I've been working on that too. My life has been so crazy busy, all good things. And I'm really excited for this next chapter. But all of that to say, I just wanted to share this little life update. You really never know what to expect out of me on this podcast. And I never want to be someone that people can pin down. And this is just the next adventure of Rachel and me coming into my own fruition and really taking what I want from life. So I hope this story has inspired and empowered you. Let me know if you're interested in hearing more about the book. Maybe I will make a separate little episode all about that. But it will be launching over the summer. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Anyway, let us now get into today's episode. Welcome to the Dangerously Divine podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Loren, entrepreneur, life coach, and your new spiritual bestie. We dive deep into all things feminine magnetism, mindset, and empowerment. Prepare to unlock your full potential and activate your feminine gifts. If you're an ambitious woman who's ready to stop playing small, step into your feminine power, and claim a life beyond your wildest dreams, then you're in the right place. So go ahead and turn up the volume. You're about to hear juicy stories, inspirational advice, and transformational tips that'll help you up-level your life and align with the divine goddess within you. More self-confidence, freedom, and abundance are all just a play away. Thank you for listening and enjoy this episode. So today's episode is all about being certain of your divine path, having a solution-oriented mindset, taking consistent and aligned action, and embracing rejection as redirection. This idea actually came to me for this episode yesterday as I was getting coffee. As I mentioned, I just got back from my trip and was really excited to just start the day a little bit earlier than usual because I had messed up my sleep schedule being on the East Coast and started working early in the morning and went down to go get my normal coffee from the lobby of my apartment building. And I just realized that there was no coffee. Like the machine was not working. And instead of being sad about this, which I normally would, or instead of making coffee in my apartment or going to a coffee shop, I just suddenly had this idea that I have this beauty and brains powder from this company called Anise. And I remember drinking it like a few times throughout the summer and it made me feel really good. And I was like, oh, duh, I just have this stuff. Why don't I drink that instead of coffee? So it's so simple, the idea of rejection as redirection, but it's something that can sort of happen in a split second if we don't catch ourselves feeling pity or feeling sad for ourselves or feeling tired or whatever. Our ego, and there's that little devil on all of our shoulders that tells us whenever something goes wrong to react in a certain way. And that way is not always the most beneficial. So we have to be super conscious of that little devil on our shoulder, that little ego inner voice. It's not our own inner voice, but it's someone's coming into our mind and telling us, oh, I wasn't able to get coffee, so now I'm going to be in a bad mood all day. Or, oh my God, now I have to walk all the way to the coffee shop and that's going to prevent me from being as productive because that wasn't what I planned. There are so many situations that I could have told myself that would have just looped me into a negative spiral. And I had decided, no, I'm not going to let that happen. And I'm going to use this as a positive to drink a beverage that I already have at home. So I know that sounds like a super simple example, but as I said, this can happen to anyone in a split second. So that's why it was important for me to talk about on today's episode and having that solution-oriented mindset and embracing rejection as redirection. I actually remember the first few times that a friend told me that line, rejection is redirection, and it really stuck out in my mind. I can't remember because she said it to me a couple times if she was talking about my dating life or a job interview that I had been on, but those are two specific examples in which she had used that line to me, and it really stood out and I remembered it. So let's first talk about what I mean when I say rejection serves as redirection. First key point here is that you have to know that there is no such thing as rejection. We want to rename rejection in our mindset as redirection. In the world of manifestation and feminine magnetism, you first need to understand that if things are not working out according to plan or as you envision them in your head, it is okay. That is a normal part of the manifestation process. I'm not a very religious person, but there is a quote that people who are religious like to say, and it is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And that kind of serves its purpose here because we sometimes get so wrapped up in what we want and our desires that we think we need to figure out how it's going to happen for us and how we're going to manifest a dream partner and how that person is going to come into our lives, or how we're going to manifest a 6-figure, 7-figure salary. But we don't get to know that process. I love telling myself when I get wrapped up in this process sometimes that it is just none of my business. It is none of our businesses to know how the universe is going to bring something to us. This is a fine line to tread on because obviously I know that I preach knowing what you desire and owning what you desire. And that is so important. It's important to have visual representations of things that you want to come to fruition. And also it's important to embody that energy, but we have to stop at the how because we have to trust in the universe and surrender to the belief that rejection or something that maybe doesn't go according to plan is a true sign that something better is in store for us. I will say that again. Surrender to the belief that rejection is a sign of something better. This process is not one that happens overnight. And if you are a diligent person who is hardworking and always looking for the next obstacle or achievement to strive for, it can seem a little nerve-wracking to just surrender and give up all of that control and power. So I want you to give yourself a little bit of grace here. It's important that we recognize when we feel that sense of rejection, but instead of feeling like an opportunity is not going to come to us or giving up on our manifestation process, we can instead learn and grow from any experience that we had revolving around rejection. So instead of taking control of the situation or trying to change it, what can we do to instead extract the lessons and insights from that rejection to fuel our own personal evolution? I want you to think hard about that one. So now that we have that foundational knowledge that there is truly no such thing as rejection, I want you to consider what the essence of certainty is around your divine life. I want you to think about all of the things that you want, your purpose in life, your goals, everything that you're trying to achieve, everything that you're trying to magnetize, and ways that you're trying to better your life. Think about it with unshakable certainty. It can be hard to not get wrapped up in the how your manifestations are going to come to you, but whenever I seem to get wrapped up in the how, and I have to tell myself that it is none of my business how, I like to change that thought by simply changing the behavior first. And that comes from always staying inspired. So if let's say I want to manifest 7 figures. And I'm so worried about everything that I have to do, and I'm getting overwhelmed with all of the tasks that I would have to do to achieve it. Instead of worrying about things that are out of my control, I am going to instead surrender and trust the universe that they will come to me, and instead look for opportunities or people or places that already have the things that I want and change my mindset to continuously be inspired. The most important thing to note here is that when I'm looking for sources of inspiration, I am not comparing myself to anyone else that I see, and I am not passing judgment on what I am doing versus what the other person is doing. It is my only job to stay inspired and look for those sources of inspiration to continue expanding my mind for what I truly want. In doing so, this helps to nurture my own certainty so that I have deep-rooted trust in the divine unfolding of my own path. We cannot compare our paths to everyone else's, although I know it's easy to. I am instead cultivating my own confidence and embodying the belief that everyone on this earth is guided towards what is best for that individual person. I am not following anybody step by step to achieve their same results because I am not that person. I am not the same as any other coach online. I am not doing the same things. We are not living the same life. We're not talking about the same things. So why would I expect the same results? Why would I want to do the same things that they're doing? Newsflash, I don't. In fact, I have learned to embrace this unknown sort of waiting period with such grace and resilience that it has become such a strong pillar in my life to just dance in the uncertainty. I saw this quote on Instagram that I think applies here, and it is that worrying is worshiping the problem. I'm going to say that again. Worrying is worshiping the problem. And when we're manifesting, we do not want to worship the problem because we know that that will only cause more problems in our life. If we spend so much time and focus and energy thinking about situations that didn't come to us, manifestations that aren't here yet, certain situations in our life that haven't unfolded the way that we want them to, when we spend time focusing all of our attention on the negative, the universe thinks that we love the negative and it will just provide more of that. So instead, through being constantly inspired and looking towards my own divine path, I am instead telling the universe that that is what I want. Changing this behavior comes from the 2 topics that we're going to dive a little bit deeper in today's episode. And they are having a solution-oriented mindset and then taking that consistent, aligned action. So first, we're going to talk about having the solution-oriented mindset. And this is all about the power of perception, shifting from a problem-focused mindset to one that is more solution-oriented. In the realm of feminine magnetism and manifestation, the way that we perceive a challenge impacts our ability to attract what we desire. Instead of dwelling on problems, adopting a solution-oriented mindset directs our focus towards finding answers and opportunities amidst all of life's difficulties. This can be done in a variety of ways. First comes positive reframing. Then we can do some gratitude practices and even visualization techniques. So when we think about positive reframing, this is like my coffee example, although as simple as it might be, it is training yourself to see those setbacks as just temporary detours rather than roadblocks. I want you to take a moment and think right now about a situation that might not have played out the way that you envisioned it in your head and how you responded to that situation. Was it in line with your highest, most divine self? Or were you acting out of temporary anger, judgment, or fear? It's okay if your answer is the latter, but we want to retrain our minds to see things as opportunities and as temporary detours. So, how I like to visualize this specific situation in my mind, let's say I have plans with a friend and I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to going out on Saturday night. We haven't seen each other in a while. I'm super stoked to see my friend. And then all of a sudden, my friend pulls out of the plans. She's sick or tired and just doesn't feel like going out that night. So my initial reaction would probably be a little disappointed. And that's okay. I'm allowed to feel those feelings. But instead of sulking in that experience and maybe harboring judgment for that friend or feeling angry, I can acknowledge the way that I feel and then move on and see it as an opportunity maybe to spend a little time on myself. Maybe I take a little bit of a longer shower that evening and make some dinner that I love or listen to music and dance a little bit. We always want to follow something negative that happens to us with something positive that we can control. It's sort of like having a built-in reward system for every single thing that happens to you. I saw this TikTok the other day where these girls were talking about how they could be the hero of their own days. And this girl that made the TikTok was saying that she has a group chat with her friends. And normally they would say that they're tired after work or they had a long day and it was stressful and XYZ, but they didn't want to let that be an excuse anymore for having shitty days. So instead, they decided that they would become the quote hero of their days by taking back the day and doing something that they love. And I love that example. And I am definitely going to keep that in my pocket and take it with me because it's so important that when things happen to us that are out of our control, we then show ourselves. And this is where the trust comes in. We show ourselves that it is okay. Things happen that are outside of our control. Maybe we didn't deserve it, but we are still allowed to live a positive life. So if ever you're feeling that rejection, I want you to think about little things that you can do that will train your brain to trust yourself and to love yourself and to regain that control over your mindset and over your life. I don't want to go too deep into the other practices here, but definitely doing some practices of gratitude and visualization can also help our power of perception by cultivating gratitude for the lessons learned from these challenges or rejections, fosters that mindset of abundance and growth. So if we're using that example of a friend canceling on you or me, a gratitude practice that I could have is that I'm so thankful that my friends feel comfortable enough to tell me when they need a day to rest. I'm so grateful that my friends trust me with their feelings and can let me know when they're feeling tired or ill. I'm thankful that I'm not feeling tired or ill and that I was actually excited to go out. There's always a positive way that we can spin any situation if you just look hard enough for that solution, aka having a solution-oriented mindset. And if that doesn't work, you can visualize yourself overcoming these obstacles and achieving your desired outcome, which reinforces the belief in your own abilities to find solutions. So if I was really looking forward to going out with this friend, maybe I visualize what we're going to do the next time we hang out and how fun it's going to be and how much more special and meaningful it's going to be after not seeing them for such a long time. Doing the tasks that I just listed above of positive reframing, gratitude, and visualization is so important because it cultivates a belief within ourselves that aligns with our desired outcome. We all know that our beliefs shape our reality. So by cultivating empowering beliefs, it is so crucial for our magnetism journey because we are then aligning our beliefs with our intentions. And then we create that magnetic force that draws our desires towards us. Some ways in which we can cultivate more empowering beliefs are through affirmations, reprogramming limiting beliefs that live in our mind, and using our imagination. So if, again, we're using that example of our friend canceling on us, we can say positive affirmations that align with our own worthiness. I am loved by my friends. My friends cannot wait to hang out with me. I am a good friend. Saying these positive things out loud to ourselves reinforces that belief that we have the power and can trust ourselves to not spiral into negative thought patterns. And if you do start to spiral into those negative limiting beliefs, try and identify and challenge some of those beliefs that hinder your progress and replace them with empowering beliefs. So if my friend cancels on me, my gut reaction might be that I'm angry or I'm fearful that they're just making up excuses and they don't want to hang out with me and they don't actually like me. By committing to these affirmations, I am replacing those beliefs with more empowering ones. As I said before, to reframe these challenges into opportunities is not something that happens overnight and takes some actual training of the mind. But we know that manifestation and your innate feminine magnetism are not just about wishful thinking. They actually require practical strategies to navigate the challenges that life throws at us and learn to leverage them for growth. So you want to be sure to cultivate mindfulness, to observe and then detach from those negative thoughts and allow yourself the space for creative problem solving. In fact, this happened to me just today. I worked a full day of teaching at school from 12 to 6 and was so tired after class. And I just could not wait to get in my bed. And I was like, oh, the podcast can wait until next Thursday. And I'm just going to do nothing for the rest of the day because I'm so tired and I've just graded papers all day and dealt with students. But I decided to take back my day and align with my desired outcome, which is someone who is full of energy and whose life gives purpose and meaning. So as I was walking back from class today, the sun was shining over the park that the school is on. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit in the park for a while. And I was like in a blazer and all my jewelry. And I was like, okay, I probably look kind of silly sitting in the grass right now. I don't have a blanket or anything, but I'm just going to do it and take back my day because I need a little bit of space to think about life, think about why I'm so tired all of a sudden from today, and really reflect on some of the patterns that have been occurring in my life that are maybe draining of my energy. So here I want you to give yourself a little bit of space to think about how you can reframe challenges and those things that don't come to you as opportunities. And it's okay if they don't come to you right away and you can't think of how that form of rejection was necessarily a positive. It's all right. Give yourself a little bit of time. But when you give yourself that creative space and that nurture and respect, A, you're going to begin to trust yourself a little bit more. And B, you're not going to rush into any sort of situation or opportunity that is not meant for you. My dear friend Adriana, who you will hear on this podcast shortly enough, says that you cannot heal what you don't feel. And I agree with that 110%. But also, you cannot heal if you don't first slow down. I'm going to say that again. You can't heal if you don't slow down first. When we have become comfortable with urgency, busyness, and rushing through life, our nervous system perceives slowing down as uncomfortable. So it's totally normal if you don't feel like yourself, if you're giving yourself that space and that freedom to just feel and come up with new solutions. But you heal as fast as the slowest parts of you feel safe. Many people heal and take that time to care for themselves in different ways. This could be mindfulness practices, journaling, seeking support, and surrounding yourself with community that can offer you guidance and encouragement. Or you can simply heal and slow down just in your daily life and what you go about doing each day. In slowing down and learning to heal these limiting beliefs, you're basically cultivating a mindset that is focused on the best possible solution instead of the fastest possible solution. And that is what I want you to think of here when we talk about becoming solution oriented. Not every solution is going to come to you overnight. It might take weeks or months to come to you. But as long as you stay in that state of ease and of rest and of trust in divine timing, that solution or that redirection will come to you. I promise. Now let's switch it up and get into our next topic, which is taking consistent, aligned action. There are so many of us women who nowadays almost prioritize rest too much. I remember I saw a Facebook post in my private Facebook group for this podcast where someone had posted anonymously about not really feeling that motivated. And she has kids, responsibilities, she has a great job, but she feels like when she rests, it leads to just being more tired. And my solution to her was that she actually doesn't need rest. What she instead needs is a little bit of inspiration to take that consistent and aligned action. And this is why when we talk about feminine energy and magnetizing our desires, you truly need the balance of both the masculine and the feminine. And I know that that's not what a lot of people preach nowadays, especially in the world of feminine energy. I feel like everything I see is about taking rest. But there is that masculine part in all of us that needs to actually define with logic what we're set out to do and have that purpose and that goal towards our dream life. And this is where the beauty of feminine magnetism really comes into fruition, because the magnetic part of us doesn't have to work as hard because she knows with unshakable certainty the life that she is going to get. But then it's that balance with the masculine energy that actually takes that action to put herself in rooms and take advantage of opportunities that she knows will further her towards those manifestations. Consistent action aligned with our purpose is the cornerstone of manifesting our desires and embodying that feminine magnetism. When our actions are in harmony with our intentions, we create that powerful momentum that propels us towards our goals. So, when we think of taking aligned action, first, we have to have clarity of the purpose of why we want to act. Clarify what your deepest desires are, what intentions those desires come with, and then take that action step, ensuring that every move you make is aligned within your overarching vision. Just like that example I gave of feeling tired after class, but then laying in the grass in the sun anyways, that is me aligning with my deepest intention, which is to feel energized by what I do. And if I had gone home and just gone to sleep, that wouldn't have necessarily been aligned with who I want to become. So many of us get caught up in the nitty-gritty of our daily tasks, but it's important here to cultivate mindful action and approach each task in your day with intention and presence, infusing every single thing that you do with meaning. From waking up in the morning and making your bed to drinking your water and brushing your teeth and washing your face, every little thing that you do throughout the day should play into the bigger picture of who you're trying to become, of your highest level self. And this is where the power of rituals comes into play. We need to start incorporating daily practices that support our alignment. This is why I have that guidebook on how to balance your masculine and feminine energies. Side note, it is free on my website. I am dangerouslydivine.com. You can go there, fill out the pop-up form that comes on the page when you first click on the site, and get this book for free. But it is all about cultivating rituals because they play a crucial role in reinforcing our alignment with our desires and maintaining that momentum. In this guidebook, it actually uses morning routines to start your day with rituals, both of the masculine and feminine, that set a positive tone and align your intentions with who you want to become. It also has a list of self-care practices that are both feminine and masculine so that you can prioritize activities that both nourish your mind, body, and spirit, replenishing your energy and enhancing your overall magnetism. I would definitely recommend that you go and grab this guidebook, but if you want a few additional practices that are not listed there, I would encourage you to begin listening to your intuition and cultivating a deep connection with yourself through practices like meditation, journaling, mindfulness, reframing obstacles as opportunities for growth and learning, acting with conviction, trusting in the wisdom of your intuition, and then using that masculine energy to take bold, decisive action in alignment with your desires, letting go of attachments and releasing that pressure to specific outcomes, and instead trust that the universe will guide you towards what is truly meant for you, practicing self-compassion, having adaptability and willingness to adjust your approach and come up with strategies in response to these challenges, and then end your day with reflection and gratitude and integrate all of the lessons that you've learned throughout the day to then set intentions for the next one. We're nearing the end of today's episode, but what I want to leave you with is that there are many different strategies for staying committed to magnetizing your desires. But the biggest one is certainty that your divine unfolding will happen just as it's supposed to. So resistance is not something that we have to overcome. Instead, it's just something that we all have to go through. We all face obstacles every single day. It is a natural part of the manifestation journey, but how we respond to it determines our success. Developing resistance and perseverance and having that solution-oriented mindset and taking aligned action might sound like a big task, but when you become certain in who your highest level, most divine self is, and you trust that version of you along with trusting the universe, there is no other option but for your success. With that, we are at the end of today's episode. Hopefully you've learned something good today and are staying inspired, giving yourself grace, and not judging your rejection, and instead looking at it as redirection. If you loved today's episode, I would be so eternally grateful if you would rate and review this show, or screenshot it and share that you're listening on your Instagram stories. This helps my message get out to other women who potentially could listen to this episode and share nuggets of wisdom with them as well, but also helps me just know that you enjoy the topics that I'm sharing here. And if you have any topic recommendations, just know that I can always be reached on Instagram at I am dangerously divine. I would love to hear from you in my DMs. Anyway, we are at the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Rachel, and this is the Dangerously Divine podcast.